Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Outlander. You didn't get used to it. Let me see. Yep. Trying to pronounce it as well as Jamie would. So, I overall enjoyed this episode. The main thing that really drug it down was the whole Brianna one, where it just feels like wheels spinning at this point, where we're just trying to kind of like pad out time, even though there's not much there. I think we could have gotten to this point ages ago. So let's hit on Brianna's stuff first, because we have a lot of good stuff going on with John, Jamie, Claire, Ian and Rachel, to a lesser extent, and definitely a bulk of it with William, especially with what we kind of get left off with at the end of the episode. Also, Jamie kind of taking his role as Brigadier General seriously of what's kind of going on in this war. So Brianna pretty much goes back to Lollybrock. The dude's like, yeah, I missed you, so I'll try again another time. I was like, fuck. But we find out that there are people tooling around in her house. And she's like, fuck, shit. And pretty much is trying to see what's going on. But of course, Ernie and Fiona pop up with the kids, and Brianna kind of shoots at the assholes, who we see are kind of people linking up with Rob Cameron, because Rob Cameron comes in and they kind of get fucked up. The car's having problems, well, van's having problems, and Brianna pretty much tries to help get everything kind of working together. I don't know how this kind of works out. I mean, I read the pretty much summary of what goes on within the book, but this, and what the summary was kind of detailing, it felt like there was more of a kind of vaster kind of conspiracy, rather than Mr. Fucknut right over here dragging in some other fucknuts to try and potentially get some gold that may or may not exist. You always got those fucking assholes that are like, El Dorado, Confederate gold, Nazi gold, Jacobite gold, all that kind of shit. Now, it's mainly the amount, like, unimaginable wealth. It's like, that's probably like a little bit, man, just chill your shit. And finding it would be cool and all, but like, fucking don't be a dick about it. But we see that Brianna helps out. Fiona's pretty much talking it through with her, like, what the fuck's kind of going on? And she's like, listen, we probably have to go to Roger. And we still, we haven't had a check-in with Roger in this episode, but, I mean, his story's pretty much done. So until it really intersects back up with, like, Brianna and the kids, I guess, I'm fine with them just pretty much like, he's just sitting, waiting in a hobbit hole, drinking some tea until the plot goes, hey, motherfucker, you're up. At least with how this adaptation is going. So that seems like it's putting that Brianna will take the kids through the stones to get away from these assholes. Because the police aren't taking it seriously. I mean, it's fucking stupid that they wouldn't. And it seems like the plot's pretty much forcing this kind of way on it. So we'll kind of see how this goes. I just honestly want this storyline to be done with, because its execution has just been like, oh god, I want the other shit. But thankfully most of this episode is taken up with that other shit, which is good. One of the cool things that this episode starts off with is actually going back a couple of years, around 1775 in London, where John is talking with his brother Hal about how the kind of war's kind of going, what they kind of perceive. Hal wants to pretty much just push the American shit in. John wants more of a reconciliation. Now, that does not mean American independence. They're also talking about pretty much their kids, and Hal being like, yeah, I felt like killing them once or twice. Is like, John's like, I've never felt that for William. And talking about their various different kind of takes on how they would do it. And John wanting to help Will if he needs to or wants to help Will, rather than Hal taking that as well. It's kind of an interesting take of at least framing the conflict of also the American Revolution as parent and child within, of course, England being the parent role, America being the unruly child that's dishonored the family name kind of shit. And I'd kind of like them digging it into it like that. This then, of course, changes up as we get to John and our present story times, swearing allegiance to the Continental Congress and all that stuff to not get fucking killed and shit. So we see that they pretty much are starting. He pretty much gets drafted into Jamie's kind of regiment. Well, not regiment. Battalion? I don't know exactly the kind of like. The men under his command, his 300. But that kind of happens a little bit later because we get this asshole who pops up like, oh yeah, this house would work really well. Oh, Brigadier General Fraser, this is a good spot for Washington and his aides to have their dinner. And before that dinner happens, Claire's in the market getting her shit, and she runs into Lafayette, the Marquis de Lafayette, who's an important historical figure, the French portion and everything. I actually really like this. See, the thing is, there's a lot of stuff that I like in this season. However, I would rather have had a little bit more time to breathe and actually have these interactions work out a little bit more, because I really love how Claire and Lafayette kind of hit it off. Him accidentally knocking her shit over and all that, apologizing to her, gonna send her some cheese, brings this kind of eel shit to it. I also really like the actor they've got as Washington. I really like his kind of take that he's got on him, how we've seen him interact with Jamie, and then of course all the rest of his commanders at this dinner, which it's not a large contingent of commanders, but also how he talks to Claire and all that, because he of course presents a flag as a gift of hosting their dinner, her bringing up the whole him wanting a 6-sided star, Betsy Ross being like, hey, 5's easier to embroider, and all that, and bringing up the whole importance of like flags and all that, how they're a bit of quality, but then sometimes they go beyond that and everything. And talking about how they need to do certain kind of things for the battlefield. This one general dude just being an outright cock of a man. Also taking up a lot of Jamie's time towards the end. We also see this Percival Beauchamp, who's with Lafayette, but he becomes an important figure later on. So we pretty much see that Jamie and Claire are pretty much trying to figure out how to kind of deal with this. Jamie inspecting the troops and trying to figure out what's going on, because he does talk to Claire and explains that most of the time he has mainly commanded men that he has known and a small number. He's never commanded this large of a force of people that he has never known before. And then that's a good thing for him to show off the limits of his knowledge and how he's kind of apprehensive of that. But then it also informs his actions as he goes through this episode, because we see that he gloms onto 2 of the kind of recruits and talks to them to try and kind of have a connection with the troops, giving one a musket, kind of getting more personal with them. Not exactly like, yo man, my wife got railed by this like British dude kind of shit. Not that personal, not that kind of shit getting aired, but enough to be like, all right, he's got faces to these people, so that way he doesn't just fucking, yo man, go get that hill and I'll give you some cheese kind of shit. It's like, all right, cool dude, I don't know if cheese is cool with you, man. Carrot, stick, cheese, fine, whatever. Pizza party, motherfucker. You know how corporate tries to be like, motivate you. Hey, we'll give you a pizza party. Pay me enough to make my own pizza party, you fucks. But that's an important bit, because he just doesn't want to send random fucking people to their death. He wants to feel connected to his command. Well, this is where Claire is pretty much examining people. It's like, all right, how long will you had this cough? 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months? Get the fuck out of here, man. But then, of course, that links up with John. We see Claire fix his eyeball, and they're trying to kind of figure out what's kind of going on and what they're about to do. This intersects in with William Ransom's stuff, but we have to go get to William Ransom's stuff because his goes to the end. Before we do that, let's actually do Ian and Rachel's kind of stuff. Now, they're a cute little couple. I think they're kind of getting shafted this season, but what we get for them is executed well and is really kind of good. I'm more like, can we kind of have more of this? Because I actually kind of take them as a better kind of newlywed relationship, sexy time kind of focused one, if you want to do that. I mean, yes, balance it all out and give some older sexy times for Jamie and Claire to show off what older sexy times are, because people are like, oh god, old people having sex. Everybody need love. Show them how to do it. Sometimes you gotta change that shit up. Sometimes you gotta figure out how to do shit in different kind of ways. And I actually kind of like that kind of different kind of representation. So, first bit we see that Ian pretty much is able to surveil this British camp. pretty much comes back and is like, oh, I didn't kind of want to wake you. And she's like, oh, and it was really kind of fucked up because she wanted to patch his ass up. So she kind of wanted him to get hurt, which is kind of a little bit strange because she doesn't really like violence and all that. But she's like, ooh, I want to take care of you. And she's like, I'm kind of stinky and shit, but I maybe got scratched by like a tree or whatnot before they proceed to like bang bang. And one thing I at least have to give them credit on. They know, at least at this point, not to overtake it completely with like sex scenes. Do it for when you're trying to accomplish something with it. Don't have it be kind of like gratuitous, because, and I don't mean gratuitous in like a complete like, oh god, it's like a completely long ass it's fucking thing where you start running out of ideas. You keep doing it, and it's like, before you have to start delving into some weird fucking kink shit maybe to try and spice it up, and then you're like, you don't want your writers diving into those kind of rabbit holes and just. Then you could potentially have some kind of fucked up kind of scenarios where your writer's fucking in a corner being like, I shouldn't have looked that up, man, I shouldn't have looked that up. And you're fucking down a writer because you put him in a fucking kink hole and you're like, no, don't do that. I know that's kind of weird ways, but that's why I have the general idea of where I'm going with this shit. So they stop it well enough, and then we do come back to them as they're pretty much getting ready to go and do battle and stuff, and he asks her to help her with his war paint and stuff, calling her his dove for his heart and everything like that, and her helping out was really kind of cool. Bringing them into that and bringing her into that kind of thing because it's his kind of ritual and it's linked to violence, and he doesn't really quite know if she wants to be involved with it, and her being like, yes, I want to be involved with you. We're husband and wife, and it's really kind of cool to see those kind of connections there. So now let us hit on William Ransom. We now get Jane and Fanny popping up, and we see that William is dealing with a fucking dickhead of a fucking motherfucker. He's like, yes, here's some dispatches. Oh, you're dirty as shit. You don't have your Orgat. You're fucking assholes. I love how William is able to convey the Frasier rage with the like restraint of a gray. Like later on in the episode, there's like a task, and Jamie calls him our son. He truly is the son of Jamie and John Gray, because he's like, whatever, man, I don't give a shit. Pops out, and then we see him linking up with Jane and Fanny, and she's like, yeah, we're kind of going to New York, but we'll like, well, kind of just stay here with you if you'd like help us out and everything. He's like, alright, how about I just pay you to, and he's like, alright, cool. Pretty much trying to figure out things to do. Alright, let's see here, how about you do my laundry and shit? And they of course aren't tasked with that. He then tries to give her money to go do things, but she doesn't know how to use money. And it's funny because I really actually like how they're able to handle this scene, because William has no understanding of how prostitution works. How she talks about, like, I know how much my mouth is, how much my down there is, but I've never spent it. I don't know how much 3 shillings would get if you get a loaf of bread, half a loaf of bread, whatever the fuck you'd be able to get. She does not have control of her wages. And William's like, God damn, I'd actually really like them to have had more time for him to actually get fucking thunderclubbed with that shit. But no, we're not watching a historical piece for the historical aspects that could actually inform character development here. That's just my kind of thing. If you're good with this, I have no problem. If this is, I would just like to see some extra kind of moments. Maybe like, I don't know, even like a minute or two where William's like, shit, you don't know how to use this shit. And then trying to figure out what's kind of going on. And they're like, we gotta run, we gotta get out of here because of that captain dude. And we figure out that the captain was going after her sister, Fanny. And she wasn't going to allow that. William's like, why didn't you just run? And she's like, I wanted to kill him. And it was an open secret that he would go for younger girls and everything like that. And she was going to just stab his ass in the back. but he turned around and she like got his throat and Fanny was screaming and everything like that. And they just kind of jumped out. So William's like, okay, we'll figure out something. And this is kind of where the Jamie kind of aspect kind of pops up a little bit more, where he's like, no, I'm not going to turn you in. Tell me what's going on. I need to know all the information, which is a prudent kind of move, because if you're trying to help and protect somebody, like, there's a lot of different kind of levels of helping and protecting. If there's a rabid dog coming after your ass, that's kind of a more of immediate threat. It's like, all right, cool. If you pretty much like kick someone in the nuts and they're like coming to be like, I want restitution, I lost a nut, that's a different level. Is it a superior that is going to pretty much really fuck some shit up? Alright. Is it a Hulk that is coming to pretty much lay waste to everything and everyone? I kind of have to know how to deal with this situation. Do I fight, flight, or kiss my ass goodbye? Kind of shit. But, I like this because I felt that there was a good kind of character development and focus on Jane. Fanny didn't feel like a complete and utter nuisance or complete plot contrivance of this is something that pretty much demanded that Jane act at this point and in this way. Their sibling relationship of like, she's been a prostitute, she knows how bad it is, and she doesn't want that to happen to her sister. And especially with that fucker. As someone that's got a sibling, totally get that. Now, I would have more went the escape route, but she was like, I wanted to kill that motherfucker. And things, totally get that with her. It's like, alright. So, then this starts kind of picking up as he then links up with the other kind of fucking asshole dude that's trying to play off the game, and pretty much gives him this thing to take to the Hessians. Because during the Revolutionary War, there were like German soldiers that were used within the employ of the British Army. So, sends them off for that kind of bit. This then links up with what's going on with Jamie, Claire, and John. With Claire pretty much giving the information about that dude being kind of an asshole. The Percival dude pretty much giving the lowdown that the Hessians are to pretty much capture/torture William in order to get stuff over on Hal, because he's been making inflammatory statements of like a reconciliation with America, and that they want to use this to pretty much blackmail him. Now, this then brought to Jamie's attention. He, of course, cannot go up and sacrifice 300 men for one. And John's like, you know what? You've actually got 299 and a prisoner, and you could parole my ass and I could go. And, of course, go with Ian. And that's how Ian's kind of war paint kind of whole thing kind of links up. He's kind of ready to go. So we've got Lord John linking up with Ian to go and rescue William. Now, I know this kind of lines up with what's kind of going on in the summary in the book. However, we do not have Jenny, which is a big kind of oversight in my opinion. We do not have Germain, Fergus's son. We don't even know what the fuck's going on with Fergus. There's a lot of different kind of things going on in the book that are not playing out in this adaptation. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out. Pretty much end with William getting to the Hessians, giving the information, them using the cipher and figuring it out, and pretty much telling him to stay, as that's how the episode ends. So William's in fucking trouble. Jamie's getting ready to go off to battle. Brianna's going to be doing her stuff. But we're getting some nice kind of movement and some nice kind of character developments and interesting kind of pairings as well. Lord John and Ian really haven't been together that much, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of interact and how they kind of like play off of each other. I definitely couldn't see them interacting and kind of bonding over more about their mutual love and respect of Jamie. So we'll see how that kind of works out. Who will take the lead as well? Will John cede it to Ian when they're kind of going through wilderness and tracking, or will he try to take kind of command to make sure that his son's alive, or what goes on, or will they work together in a more kind of amicable fashion? It's a lot of kind of exciting stuff, at least on that kind of front, and I like it when it's got more of that, and I just want to get Brianna and Roger out of this side quest territory for me. So, yeah, there's a lot of different kind of wheels spinning. I also believe that Diana Gabaldon wrote this episode, according to what I've seen on the Wikipedia entry, and from what I've heard on other things, and I think this was done very well. There is nothing that could really kind of work. It's mainly the adaptation and pacing of what's going on with Brianna's stuff that's got me more mixed up, rather than any kind of like writing of what's kind of going on and what the characters are saying. The greatest kind of strengths in this were when they were doing the stuff with Claire, Jamie, Lord John, William, Ian, and Rachel. So we'll see what kind of goes on and how this kind of works out. We've got 2 episodes left for this part, and then however fucking long we've got to get season 8 kind of popped out. I think they finished filming. I don't know when it's going to kind of pop up, because it's really gotten kind of weird where normally you would have the cadence of you'd have a season and then about a year later you'd get another season. Now you could have it shorter and just be like, hey, here's a season, and then you're like, what the fuck happened to that thing? And then boom, like less than a year later, what the fuck did you just do? That's a very rare case. And then it's usually longer, like we're getting with Netflix with any of their kind of seasons with streaming shows of being like longer. So we'll see what happens. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.